World War II was the most destructive and expensive war in the history of the world. It damaged properties and killed an enormous amount of people. Hitler's Nazi era was the #1 factor of the destruction. As many of you know, the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, was led by Adolf Hitler, and it grew into a huge movement that promoted anti-Semitism and German pride. The party was dissatisfied with the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I and also forced Germany to make a number of reparations and concessions. The war was an aftermath of horrible deeds that we'll talk about in this video. The Nazis were popular. The people of Germany trusted and voted for them. Hitler and the Nazis took the opportunity of the economic hit in 1929 as the country heavily relied on loans from America. Unemployment rise led to an increase in crime and hunger, which made Hitler capitalize on the situation and push people to vote for him. He gave the voters the picture of a better future with the Nazi Party. His tactics were effective. In the July election of 1932, the Nazis won 37% of the vote. They were the largest party in the country by a substantial margin. The Nazis took full control in March 1933, but it's important to keep in mind that they had support before becoming powerful. A lot of children were brainwashed into believing that the movement was the right thing to follow, and Germany wasn't the only country inflicted. Poland was one of the countries that felt the heat. Concentration camps were made for Polish children. It was set up on December 1, 1942. Children had to face the cruelty of German discipline and the bestiality of sadistic guards completely alone without any protection or support from adult prisoners. Their delicate bodies were fully exposed to a brutal camp system that was designed to punish, exploit, and dehumanize. Survivors say that in some aspects it was worse than other camps. From their point of view, the camp was more terrible than other camps because in big camps older people helped children, but in this camp the children had to protect themselves. In other camps adults formed small groups to help each other survive, but here the children weren't able to cooperate in that way. The children, ranging in age from as young as 2 years old up to 16, were routinely beaten, starved, and subjected to humiliating and harsh punishments. Forced to work in grueling conditions, many of the children, their organisms pushed to the limits of endurance, expired from disease and fatigue. The number of children who were imprisoned at the camp is unknown, and Poland's Institute of National Remembrance, IPN, is working on establishing the figure. However, over the years since the camp was closed when the Red Army arrived in Lodz on January 19, 1945, estimates have ranged from the low thousands up to an improbable 13,000. The same is true regarding the number of deaths. The lowest figure, from wartime German documents, is 72, though the IPN suggests that the number is likely to be slightly higher. The camp remains relatively unknown in Poland and especially abroad, but Podolska Plaka believes that it deserves our attention. It was created especially for kids. Every time something bad happens to children, you have an instinctive feeling that it is wrong. To collect children in one place, to use them, to beat them, to starve them, to deny them an education, all goes against the rights of children. The survivors said that because it happened to children, it was not treated seriously. Nobody could believe that they were treated badly. Also, because of where it was situated, most people think that it was just another part of the ghetto, but they are shocked when they learn it was a totally different camp. The children would receive a slice of camp bread and half a liter of black coffee, sometimes sweetened with saccharin. Dinner was a liter of rutabaga or potato soup with beet leaves or cabbage. Sometimes they were given a spoonful of marmalade. A typical punishment was to be denied food. As a result, the children in the camp suffered from chronic hunger that they became experts at hunting birds and rodents, and they would sprinkle dead flies and insects into their watery soup. Washing took place outside under a pump or in a basin, regardless of the weather, both washing with soap, which could only be obtained in parcels from home, and changing underwear were rare. Until the spring of 1944, there was no permanently active bath or room for steaming clothes. Regardless of this, having lice or being dirty were punished by flogging or being denied meals. Some of the guards were particularly brutal towards youngsters. Edward August, guard from a German family, was notorious as a sadist who committed many crimes against the defenseless children. He was constantly drunk. He was omnipresent. He took pleasure in subjecting prisoners to the most imaginative torture. He beat and kicked them in the most sensitive places. He buried them in boxes of sand, dunked them in a barrel of water, hung them by the legs on a chain and lowered their heads into a tank with used car lubricants. He cut their genitals with a penknife, beat their heels and extinguished cigarettes on prisoners' chests. The worst conditions prevailed in Block 8, where children who wet their bed were placed. Initially, these children had their straw bedding taken away and were woken up every 2 hours. However, when this did not help, the camp authorities considered bed wetting an act of disobedience and punished. They were forced to sleep on bare planks, which soon rotted and never dried out. The children had to sleep in their camp uniforms and underwear, and as a result they were permanently wet. Because of their unpleasant smell, these children had to work outside all year round. They got swelling to such an extent that they did not fit into their clothes, and yet they were never sent to the clinic. For this reason, mortality in Block 8 was the highest. The sad thing is that these children were never really treated as victims. They were told they had not been in a concentration camp, so it was nothing. Many of them were too young to know their own identities, and some never managed to find out who they were. Despite all of this, awareness of the camp's existence remains unknown. Many people aren't aware of the horrendous past and its effects. That's it for today's video. Make sure to subscribe for more and comment down below if you'd like a part 2. Have a great day or night and see you soon in the next one.